What I really like about Dragons of Legend is not the ridiculously overpowered cards or the fact that Solar Charge is the most ridiculous card printed in a really long time, or that Curry Bandit and Mathematician really speed up a bunch of really lower tier decks. No. It's the fact that they release a shit ton actually, of just really interesting cards. One that I feel is not really in the limelight is Lionhearted Locomotive, mainly because it kinda sucks. It's really easy to pull. No one really cares for it too much. It doesn't really have a deck that it really fits into. Until today, when I decided to finally get off my ass and try and build the Lionhearted Locomotive deck. Because, why not? It's just a very interesting idea that I came up with. It plays a lot like Dino Rabbit, except your material are a lot weaker in the beginning of the game. However, towards the end of the game is where this deck really, really shines. But you have a bunch of cards that get you there, and you have a bunch of cards that mean that make it so that you don't lose on really early. And I think it just flows really, really well. You play 3 MK2 to go with your 3 Gear, and then you play 3 Geargiano. A lot of Gear decks, or decks that play Gear, only really play one of this guy, and it makes a little bit of sense because he's pretty bad when you open him up, and you never really want to open with him. However, in this deck, you can use his effect in a very interesting manner, which is reviving Lionhearted Locomotive. Geargiano negates its effect, so it becomes a 24 beater for no good reason, and I think that's kind of cool. And then MK2 is just obvious revival, and it works really well in this deck. It accesses you into rank 3s, which are pretty decent. And you play a very limited Machina engine. You don't really want to draw into Fortress too often, or Cannon at all unless you have Fortress. But I feel that this is the right number for this deck. It works really well because Fortress can put your Geargiano into the graveyard for your MK2, or your Lionhearted Locomotive into the graveyard for your Geargiano. So it works really well there. You have your 24 beat stick, and then you have draw power. 3 duality to look for Gear, and other stuff. You have 3 Lance to make sure your play goes off, and 2 MST to make sure your plays goes off. Book of Moon can make sure that your plays go off and that you can disrupt your opponent, which is what it does in like every deck. Dark Hole, clear the field. And Limiter is just to surprise game your opponent. 5,000 attack and 4,600 are pretty game ending, especially with Soul Charge being a thing and people paying themselves down really, really low. This card's amazing. Just poop out monsters and then make rank 4s is really cool. You have your standard removal and summon reaction cards, and then compulse. Same thing with Black Horn of Heaven, except this one's a little bit less linear. You can bounce back your Gear frames to get their effects again. You can bounce back MK2s to get their effects again. Wiretap, make sure play goes off. Dimensional Prison, which is played mainly for the hands, which kind of wreck this deck. And also for Elemental Dragons, which are pain in the butt. Skill Drain, very, very helpful card. It's kind of weird to play it with MK2 and Gear Frame in the deck, but it's mainly for Lionhearted Locomotive. And you can play actually 2 extra deck cards that work really well with Skill Drain, so why not? And then you have 1 Call. I was thinking about playing Soul Charge in this deck, but I feel that Call is a little bit better in this deck because you're more aggro, and there isn't really a board that you can set up that's just like impossible to break, which is where Soul Charge really shines. For the extra deck, you play 2X, and you play Emerald to recycle, Abyss Roller to mess up things, Cowboy for game, Heartland Draco for game, Evil Storm Exiton for just blowing up the field, 101 to just be the best Exceed in the game in my opinion. Crazy Box, it's really, really good, especially with Skill Drain. It works out really well. You have a 3k beater, and that's really hard for elemental dragons to get over. Engineer, just to be defensive and stuff. Alucard to be offensive. Temtempo to deal with exceeds that are annoying. Acid Golem to just be really good under skill drain. Be very careful when you make this card though. Generally, it's only when you're going for game or if you have like 2 skill drains, because this card can kill you. Zenmane's just a very good wall, and then Fortune Tune to recycle these guys back into the deck so that you can continue using gears. So that is the deck. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. This is kind of a wacky deck, and there are a couple of awkward hands that you can draw, but in the end, it's kind of just for fun. Like, play around with it at your locals a little bit and just see what you think of it. And I think that's going to be all for now. Smashing Pumpkin signing out. Peace.